Hello and welcome back once again to After the Credits. So, saw something fairly newer today. I know I've kind of been watching older films not really older films, just a couple months old. They're probably out of the main theater into the dollar theater by now, if not coming out on DVD very soon, if they're not already out on DVD, because half the time I see stuff at the dollar theater, it's already out on DVD, or within a week of me seeing it, it comes out. So, this one's fairly new. It's been out a couple weeks, I think. It might have just opened last week. I'm not 100% sure. But at least a week, maybe two, since this one's been out. So it is fairly new. And that is Jack Reacher, Never Go Back, I believe is the subtitle. Basically, Jack Reacher 2. It's been a while since I've seen the first Jack Reacher, and I only vaguely remember anything about that movie. I wasn't really that into it when I first watched it, but I was like, yeah, it's alright. So going into this one, I wasn't really sure what to expect. More or less, it's basically the same type of film. You know, Jack Reacher goes around kicking everyone's ass because he's on a mission. And it's just one of those, action beat-em-up movies that you see every day almost. So basically, the movie starts with what you see in the trailer, Jack Reacher sitting in the cafe and being arrested by the police. It's the phone's going to ring and you're going to be wearing this cuffs thing, and it turns out to be true. And turns out that Jack Reacher is no longer in the military, but he was investigating some people who were in the business of human trafficking, I guess, kidnapping and selling of people. And he was tracking them down, and he wanted to go in and kill them, but he figured he'd let the government in on it so that he wouldn't end up being a fugitive, I guess. So that's where that whole scene kind of comes into play. And then you see him talking on the phone to the major who he's been communicating with as his government liaison. And turns out to be a girl, so he's like, well, maybe if I end up in Washington, we'll have dinner or something. So then eventually he ends up in Washington, and he's looking her up. And turns out the day he arrives to take her out on this date that they've kind of set up, she is no longer in command, and she's under investigation for treason, or something along those lines. I forget what they actually reference it at, but basically treason. They think she's selling government secrets to foreign parties, so they're relieved of her command, they have her in prison, and Jack's like, okay, well, tell me what's going on, and they're like, oh, we can't give you any information on it. So through his training, he manages to track down information, find out what's going on, realizes that there's more to it than what he's being told, more to it than what she's being told, and so on. So he decides to break her out of jail, and then they kind of go on the run from the police, and it's just kind of a, okay, let's find out what's actually going on type of thing. And that's basically the way the movie plays out. They eventually track down lead after lead after lead, loosely figure out what's going on, and eventually come to a point where they can stop it. Of course, you have to have a way of weakening Jack Reacher, otherwise he's just this invincible powerhouse of a movie action hero. So it comes into play that early on in the film that Jack may have a daughter that he never knew about. So of course the bad guys eventually track down the daughter, take her prisoner, and they're like, you either cooperate with us or your possible daughter dies. And at first he's kind of like, I have no proof that she's my daughter. But at the same time, that's just him being a hard ass as usual. So it kind of plays out that way, like, is she or isn't she his daughter? But at the same time, the fact that she might be makes him kind of worry about her. So he lets his guard down a little bit without ever actually letting his guard down, or I should say he lets them think that his guard is down when it's not. And yeah, the movie just kind of plays out. They eventually find out what's actually going on, track down the big bads. Happy ending, but then of course there's the one rogue guy who got away and goes after the daughter, so then it's the final showdown to get the daughter back. And that says basically every other action movie you've ever seen, so not really much more to say about it other than that without basically telling you more and more and more of every little detail of what happens in the movie, which I'm not going to do. So what did I think of it overall? If you like action films and you just like watching, Tom Cruise go around beating people up and things exploding, you'll probably like it. But if you're going into it looking for a story, it's every other action movie story you've ever seen before. There's really nothing new here. But if you're a fan of Jack Reacher, I guess check it out. So what would I give it as far as a star rating? Well, I can honestly say I enjoyed this one better than the last two movies I've watched, but again, it's a standard action film. So, I don't know, I guess 3.5. And like I said, it only gets a 3.5 because I enjoyed it better than the last two films I watched, and I gave both of those a 3. But overall, it's a middle-of-the-road action film. But since I had more fun watching this than I did the other two, I'll bump it up a little bit and give it a 3.5. And that's the only reason I'm bumping it up, honestly, is because the last two movies just weren't all that intriguing, I guess. So, yeah, that's pretty much it for Jack Reacher 2, whatever the hell the subtitle is, Never Go Back or whatever. So that's it for this episode. Again, as always, thank you guys for watching. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, share the video. Links are in the description, and until next time, we'll see you after the credits.